Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for update 41 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off, as always, with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful! So, what have we got for you this week? Well, we have the long, or shall we say, couple weeks awaited update for you, WURSTWURLD. Our new sort of Wild West themed update. It's a more comprehensive sort of mode and environment than anything that we've added yet so far. And I thought today I would, especially because I've already released a trailer, you already know what sort of what the gist is of the space. I thought I would cover a couple of its sort of elements in detail and sort of talk about the development process, in terms of sort of how they've come along, how that fits into what's eventually going to come next, and just some sort of interesting things that I ran into over the course of sort of making this a reality. Well, the first of them, actually, as one of them strides by, is the sort of new wiener bots that are in this scene. I have been sort of fighting a battle throughout the entire development of H3 in terms of trying to create a compelling virtual agent, either as a sort of as a civvy or as a combat agent that had sort of enjoyable reactive behavior, while and some sort of physics reactivity without being sort of too performance expensive to use a lot of them. Those of you who've played in the arena or even in Meat Grinder know there aren't that many enemies active at once, and that's for very specific performance reasons. Physics stuff can sort of run out of control expense-wise, especially with the sort of detail of collision and ballistic sim that's already in the game. Whereas these fellas are, as you can see here, have some actual jointed structure, but they're still a sort of traditional agent in that they sort of path around using a nav mesh. And really, these are the first time that I've been able to blend those two things together and being able to have that sort of reactivity while still having the sort of really performance efficient sort of use of built-in Unity systems like the pathfinding. In the past, it's been an either or. The botwursts and Meat Grinder used the pathfinding system, but they didn't really react when you physically hit them at all. They just sort of stood there very wooden. And the slicers are sort of full physics. They don't use the pathfinding, which means they can't get from point A to B very well, and they're very expensive. So these little guys here are sort of a halfway point. And of course, we get some really nice reactive behaviors when we fire at them. The civvies here are a little stronger than the actual Bandit Bots. Come on. There we go. So he can actually sort of joint apart and fully ragdoll once he's been taken down. So, and what's nice about these is I managed to get a whole bunch of really pleasant combat behaviors out of them for when they're functioning as bandit bots. So I'm going to be using the way that these guys function as a model going forward for what I would call sort of like closer to human proportions, i.e. they're about 6.5 feet tall, narrow, and move through an environment that is very much designed for humans. And I actually built a modular enough system that I can give them all sorts of different sorts of firearms in the future. So yeah, what next? What next? Well, let's go ahead and go shoot some bandits just so you can check those out. So a note about the way that that combat works in this environment, because I know some of you are going to want to go and shoot some bandits primarily, whereas some of you would rather explore the environment in a more relaxed way, throw some horseshoes, do some puzzles, and not get bothered during that process. So the way this works is that combat mode as such is completely optional, and it functions via this deputy badge. By putting on the badge, i.e. putting it in a quick belt slot, we're now a deputy, which means that bandits will spawn sequentially in the environment as you take them out and bring their hats here back for a bounty. You can see which bot you're on here on the wanted poster and the sauce reward for bringing the hat back for it. And if at any point you just get overwhelmed or you're like, I'm done with fighting bandits, you can just take the badge right out and you're done. Just going to put that back in. Go hunt ourselves some bandits. A note about locomotion in this environment. There's a lot of platforming in it in terms of getting up on roofs and finding secrets that require teleportation to be able to get up. But if you're largely doing sort of combat-y stuff with the bots, I personally find arm swinger locomotion to actually be really enjoyable to do. I'm not going to engage it right here because it's more performance expensive for physics reasons, and I'm also screen recording, so I don't want to get judder doing both of those at once. So let's see if we can find ourselves some bots here. They should be around. Oh, there they are. They haven't seen me yet. These are also a little bit smarter than the likes of Clunk. Just by firing my gun off, I will catch their attention, or if I strike them when they haven't seen me yet. They can also get into fights with each other sometimes, like you actually see at the end of the trailer. So, oh, ooh, he's seen me. Oh. That one over there doesn't seem to care much about my shots. He's got a really short view distance because this is the first bandit pair. Ah, it's blocking my shots. Oh, let's get back here.
Eat some of this.
Ha! Eat some of that. So that was a posse bot. And the main bandit's over here. Man, he is... Where does he think he's going? Well, he's going to be in for a really nasty surprise here. As I said, it's the first bot. Bandit bot. He's not too smart. Expect the later ones to be a good deal more formidable. So we got his hat here. We are going to go ahead and shoot back. Collect our bounty. I know it's a bit of a hike right now between these. I'll talk about it in a minute, but there are a bunch of things that we are going to add in between now and the 4th. A couple quality of life things, one of which is going to be a sort of quick travel system between some map nodes. So we deposit this. We get some sauce for it. Boom. And we now have a next bot to fight. And basically, as you go from 1 to 10 with these, they get smarter, they move faster, they're more accurate with their guns, and after the first one, they've got more of a posse with them. Now, if you manage to bring down all 10, which you can see sort of check marks here for, this chest will open, it will give you a reward, and the game will go into sort of what's called Bandit Bonanza mode, which is where they'll just keep spawning in sort of midtown and the downtown area of the map for as long as you want to fight them, and you'll get sauce each time you bring them down. So if you really enjoy the bot combat, there is as much of it for you as you could want. So let's go ahead and take off our badge. Oh, by the way, when you take that off, if you're currently fighting bots, they'll just immediately despawn. So if you just need to get out of combat really quick, drop your weapons, just done fighting, just do that. Cool. So what's next? Obviously, as I've described in the past, the game has been pretty heavy on hot dogs and pretty light on horseshoes for a while. And so one of the things that sort of stemmed naturally from creating the large environment for this update was creating a sort of a horseshoe golf course. Through the entire environment. There are sort of 14 posts for the whole thing. You get a really shiny reward for getting all 14 of them, and trust me, some of them are quite difficult. And the way these work, as I think I explained last devlog, is they shatter on impact. You want to please make sure you know where your television set, monitor, ceiling, and walls are when you're throwing these. Adam already put a chip in my ceiling right above me doing a really hard overhand. So especially if you got a low ceiling, it can help to sort of hunker down a little bit, come into a little more of a squatting pose, just to make sure that when you're doing a hard underhand or doing a vertical throw like that, you don't smash your ceiling and break your Vive controller. So you've been warned. Come on. Oh, the first throw always whiffs. One thing you'll notice with these is because I wanted to do a course that was a little long distance, I am magnifying the force that you throw with about 60% or so. Otherwise, we would have been limited to pretty much very short range throws. So it takes a moment to calibrate yourself to it. Woo! And then you get quite used to it. So make sure to explore the environment. There are a whole bunch of these hidden all over the place. Man, after doing the Bandit Bot for days and weeks of voice acting, I keep slipping into my absolutely terrible fake Southern accent. So I apologize if any of you find that irritating. And then lastly, the last three sort of like set of activities is these target shooting puzzles, which once again, I think I explained in last week's devlog, but just for a quick reminder, there are 9 puzzles spread throughout the environment, 3 of each kind. There are 3 kinds of puzzles. And what you have to do is assemble a target sequence. This one is super simple just because it's a demonstration. And then once you assemble it, there we go. We have a sequence of targets we need to shoot to open up that safe. We can use our E-slab here to track the last things we shot. And you got to be really careful because a ricochet that then hits a target counts for this. So you got to make sure you've got a good angle on things. And some of the targets are a little harder to find in the environment. Once you do all 9 of those puzzles, this chest will open and you'll get another nice old-timey reward. I think you'll quite like it. And of course, there's a few more things that I don't even want to hint at that are present in the environment to figure out and enjoy that they're quite worth it, I assure you. So, whew, my goodness, that was a lot of talking. So yeah. Oh, and now let's talk momentarily about what's going to be going into this space going forward. So, because this is not 100% done. There are a couple things that I had envisioned for it that I just ran out of time to do. The first and probably most prominent is that I didn't get time to fully implement a single action revolver. The revolver that we have for the environment is a Model 10, which is a double action cartridge eject style revolver. I already had a system for that, which is why I was able to implement this. But obviously it's not a Colt single action army. We can't fan this. But I'm still working on that. So that's going to be, I don't know if I'll have that one ready for the 4th, but I really want to because I've been wanting to fan fire a revolver since I first started working on this game. So that's coming still. There's also, you might notice while you're in here, as I just drop a revolver on the ground, on our map here, there is a Gatling gun listed. That is coming soon. I am still working on it, but I've got a pretty accurate, nice crank Gatling gun, so that's going to be coming along with something special for it. There's a sign down in the environment in the downtown area for where it's going to be, and that's definitely going to be ready for the 4th. And then beyond that, there are just some sort of enhancements and quality of life stuff that I'm going to continue working on this. If you do run into a bug, I deeply ask your patience with it. This is by far the most complex thing, the most complex update that I've ever pushed for the game. There are so many interlinking systems. There's bound to be still a few little bugs here and there I haven't caught. Just please, if you find something, report it on the bug reporting section of the Steam community. So yeah, I encourage you all to just explore, take your time with everything. Don't race through completing it if you can. Especially because hiking back and forth until I get a teleport in might get a little tiresome. But I encourage you to explore and find the various little goodies that have been hidden throughout the space, and of course, let us know what you think of this wild little experiment. So with that, I'm going to finally jump on. I'm just going to stop blabbing for a moment and jump out of VR and talk about some other long-term stuff.
Yo! So we're back out of VR now, just in time, too, as my controllers totally ran out of charge right at the end of that. So there were a couple things that I forgot to mention while I was in headset about the scene and the mode that are important. There's no explicit save game-wise. It basically is sort of a perpetual autosaver that checks every time something that gets recorded, like you've finished a horseshoe post. that will basically catch that about every 5 seconds or so. So as long as you basically don't complete something and then Alt F4 the game within like 3 or 4 seconds, it will always save your progress. So yeah, let's see, what else did I want to mention? Oh, take your time learning the lever actions. They are a little tricky to get used to, and they are the one class of two-handed firearm that are not really going to be compatible with a gun rig if you use one. You should just be aware of this going in. As basically the way they work, you are rotating this controller forward each time to actuate it. I know in real life with lever actions you don't have to rotate your hand so much as just slam it forward and back, but this was the way that I had to get that input working in a reliable way. Otherwise it was too glitchy just using position. I had to use rotation. So yeah, in terms of the scene itself, this is going to be where all basically pre-World War I, post-1820s firearms are going to live from now on. They're going to be, because the scene was really sort of built around them, every time one of those firearms gets added, it's going to go on a plinth or a display or something like that in the starting area of this scene. It'll still be available in the item spawner, don't worry about that, but just in terms of like, especially if any time I add something like that, likely something else in the Worst World scene is also getting tweaked or added to go with it, as I like to try to pair thematic content as much as possible. So yeah, so in terms of what's sort of like coming down the pike next, obviously after 4th of July, I'm going to take like a week off to just recover from this, as this is, in many ways, this was an even harder push than Meatmas was, because whereas Meatmas was mostly about just lots and lots of firearms, this was doing a whole lot of everything all the time, all over the place, different kinds of systems, interactions, and just coordinating the efforts of a larger number of folk than before. So this is probably the largest team effort of any sort of update or addition to the game, and probably the largest number, yeah, absolutely the largest number of person hours that went into it. So worth it. So, what else? Oh, I tried to anticipate a couple sort of common questions I anticipated. So the new Wiener bots, if you enjoy fighting them, those are going to be available very soon to spawn in things like the arena. I might even try to squeak them into the breaching scene. The breaching scene needs a whole replace, so I don't want to put too much effort into it, because I intend to completely rebuild that and expand that. But as a temporary stopgap measure, I was thinking about sometime, maybe in July or early August, doing like 2 to 3 days of work onto that scene, just giving it some spit polish, a lot, adding some randomization, fixing a couple bugs in it, just to hold you folks over until I can sort of readdress that concept and prototype more thoroughly later. The same thing really needs to be done to the arena scene eventually. I'm going to just add the bots in, or spawning of them, for a while, but that scene kind of runs like crap, in part because I designed it without realizing that a certain type of performance sync existed related to reflections that I discovered in making that scene. So it will never be as fast of a scene as it should be given its simplicity. So expect that to eventually just be nuked and replaced. But for now, it's still going to remain a sort of bot proving ground. So I'll be adding the Wiener bots in there once again sometime in July. And then lastly, the next sort of big thing that I have to work on is a sound system replacement. So I'm still doing a whole bunch of things terribly in Unity, and some extreme cases, you might have even experienced it in the arena, which is if you spam too many sounds while a bunch of bots are active, the sound system terminally fails. Like all of a sudden you're only hearing the reverb of everything, primary sounds aren't playing. It's a full-blown fault, and it has to do with the fact that play one shot in Unity apparently can hard fail if you spam it too much. So I have to re-engineer everything with a bunch of help from several people. But that's going to be the next big sort of engineering project for the game, while I do little content drops to keep you folks engaged and interested while I do the really, really boring sort of low-level underlying work. And so yeah, so that's the battle plan currently for the next sort of sets of things. I know a whole bunch of you, I keep seeing the comments on the YouTube, World War II weapons, when? Don't worry, that's the next big thing that's going to happen. I've already started work on it. It's requiring a lot of research. Every bit of research that I've done on it keeps demonstrating to me how much more differently from each other weapons of that era function compared to modern ones. Doing the Wild West guns was sort of a preview of that, of like, oh, I basically have to make a script component set for each gun completely uniquely because of the mechanical differences of them. So a similar thing is going to be the case for a whole bunch of the World War II firearms. So, but that's don't worry, it will happen. You can stop being like, is it gonna happen? It's gonna happen. Just I need the time. I need to make it happen. So anywho, I hope you all have a really enjoyable time unlocking the secrets of WURSTWURLD. I will be here as usual all evening. If you want to drop feedback, problems, what have you, on the various Reddit threads. After it goes live at 7 p.m. PST, which will be an hour after this devlog is posted. So, if you all have a blast, talk to you soon. Peace.